unaccounted for. Now, Brandon is telling us today that it's gone into different vehicles. I expect that there should be a record of any time that the gas has been pumped out for use on the marina. That should be, recordable, as well as any gasoline that's in the tank at the end of the year. There's a stick that they put down that tank, at least that they do this at gas stations that I know of. My grandfather ran one for 30 years over at Rhode Island and Niagara. So we should know what's in that tank at the end of the year. And those numbers should be before us. So I'd ask the Comptroller's office to relook at those numbers. I'd ask Brandon to get those numbers to the Comptroller's office, because I think that 20,000 is the first, it's essentially the first bold point after what's owed in the Comptroller's front page here. And I think we should know if there's 20,000 gallons of gas and where they were put. I don't see anything criminal before us today, to be honest with you folks. Taxpayers should know that. I think these are all numbers. This is all based on essentially the commissioner treating this more like a business than a public entity run business. No one came to the board of directors for approval on different things, and that's when things go awry, and that's what happened in this situation today and throughout the past 6 years. Thank you.
If I may, I, even as an attorney, would prefer that this go to either arbitration or mediation. Even before you engage a mediator, certainly I and Brandon am more than willing to sit down with the city attorney's office and any member of the comptroller's office and any member of the finance committee to review and to discuss possible negotiations on not only past but also future. In very quick response to Councilman Fontana, Brandon did file pursuant to New York State FT 943s, which are quarterly inventories of sales, which also include any amounts which are retained in the tanks. And I don't believe that those reports are reviewed by the auditors, and they probably should have been, but that's Monday morning quarterbacking. We stand ready, and that's contained in Exhibit G of our response. We stand ready to absolutely enter into negotiations in good faith with the city to move forward. Just to close, I agree with Mr. Curry. The waterfront has changed, but I would also state for the record that the positive changes that have happened at the Erie Basin Marina, which at one time when they took it over was simply a place that boaters went to get on their boats. And in 2012 and 2013, it has become part of a destination where people go down to enjoy events and to enjoy walking around and looking at the gardens. And the city has enjoyed its share of those benefits in the almost tripling of sales since they took over the Erie Basin Marina. So, the old adage to not throw the baby out with the bathwater seems to make some sense here. To a great extent, the beautification of the Erie Basin Marina and the advances at the Erie Basin Marina are due not only to your commissioners of public works who have worked very hard with Brandon, but also due to the efforts of Brandon and the over $700,000 they've invested in that entity since they first signed this lease. And lest we forget the additions and the amounts of money expended and invested in additional floating piers that the city has profited from as well.
Councilor, in your audit, in your filing with the city's auditor, Mr. Kaufman, on August 1st, you're mentioning an 18 cents per gallon fuel margin profit, but on Exhibit F, it's referred to as 36 cents. Is there a reason for the difference? Because you're getting it, the revenue's $4.36 a gallon, which is pretty good on the water. $3.90 is the COG. Gross profit's 46 cents, minus the 10 cents you were paying us instead of the 10%. That's 36 cents, but then you reference the 18 cents on the memo.
Right.
Why is it different?
I'm sorry. On Exhibit F?
Well, yeah, on Exhibit F you're at 36 cents, but on your letter to the Comptroller's office, you're at 18 cents.
There's an additive that has to go in called Valtech, which adds 12 cents per gallon cost because it's marine fuel.
Right. That's 10 cents, you said?
No, 12 cents a gallon.
All right. Well, that's something we'll look at in the sheet. I just saw the two numbers and I was wondering why.
Right.
We're still off 8 cents, but we'll see. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
I would like to respond to Exhibit G. It was pointed out, and it says ending inventory for diesel fuel is 17,000 gallons. It is my understanding that those tanks only hold 8,000 gallons. So I'm not sure where the other 9,000 gallons is. But again, I would like to remind the council of my earlier testimony saying that as a part of the phone conversation with the operations director of Brandon Services, that he says that they keep as little possible in the tank and they try not to keep any inventory in the tank between year to year. So I can't explain why an 8,000 gallon tank is holding 17,000 gallons, or why that is contradictory to the statement to the auditors prior to the issuance of this audit. I would like to touch on the living wage, and it is my understanding that Brandon has an exemption to the living wage for employees under 21. So I would like to know whether or not they're paying every employee living wage, or are the employees that are under 21 getting paid less than living wage?
First and foremost, we're not subject to the living wage. Our lease pre-existed the living wage. So we're entirely exempt from the living wage. We agreed voluntarily to pay the living wage to all of our employees over the age of 21. And as most of the people here know, a great deal of our employees are under the city youth program, and they are paid at the minimum wage level. So when Brandon voluntarily agreed with the city and the mayor to pay the minimum wage, which it is not obligated to do under our lease, to pay the minimum wage at a cost of $90,000 per year to Brandon to people over the age of 21.
I would just like to say that much was made about the requirement to pay living wage, and now we know that they are not paying living wage for a great deal of their employees that are under 21. So another thing I would like to touch on that Mr. Councilman President Fontana brought up was that by investing $800,000 back in the day, that it was the intention to rebid this so everyone gets a fair shake. In the past 2 years, we've borrowed $2 million in capital improvements to the marina. So if it was certainly the case back for $800,000, I would say it's the case for $2 million. Thank you.
Okay. If I can just summarize real quickly, because we're kind of getting all over the place. There's a number of issues at hand. We have the 10% of the fuel sales versus the 10 cents per gallon. Back in 2009, when Brandon left the meeting, they were under the assumption it was now going to be 10 cents. As per Corporation Council, the council never acted on that. So that's something that needs to be discussed. The 20,000 gallons of unaccounted for gasoline. You have several explanations for it today, but we also just received your response today. So that's something we also need to look at more in depth. As far as the deductions in your 04 communication that you accepted to maintain the lands for $87,000, it appears further deductions were taken based on communications between yourselves and Public Works. That also needs to be hashed out. So ultimately, what I'm getting at is in agreement with Council Member Rivera, Russell, Smith, Fontana. What we need to do is get together in a meeting, an arbitration meeting, and hash all of this out. I mean, we could sit here and talk about it for the next 3 hours, and I think we're going to end up at the exact same point. I think what we need to do is get together and have that meeting.
We're available at any time.
As are we, Mr. Councilman.
So if I could have a motion.
Motion to table items 4 and 5.
Motion to table items 4 and 5.
And motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.